A mother walked into the basement of her own home and noticed a bucket sitting near the stairs with a towel covering the top. She lifted the towel and found her 24-year-old son's severed head staring back at her. But that wasn't the entire crime scene. Police were about to discover that pieces of him had been hidden throughout the basement, and the woman responsible would later attack her own attorney in the middle of court. Well, viewer discretion is advised. The story involves murder, dismemberment, sexual violence, and extremely disturbing crime scene photos. I found them disturbing. And this happened in February of 2022 in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The victim was 24-year-old Shad Thyrion, and the woman who would eventually be convicted of killing him was Taylor Schabusiness. That's her last name, Schabusiness. The two had been intimate before, so when Taylor picked Shad up from his mother's house one evening, there wasn't any immediate reason for his family to think something horrible was about to happen. Later that night, Shad and Taylor ended up back in the basement of his mother's home, where he had his bedroom basically set up. They had been using drugs, and according to what Taylor later told investigators, the two began having sex and incorporated a chain into what they were doing. At some point, Taylor began strangling Shad with that chain. She would later claim she hadn't originally intended to kill him, but she continued to tighten the chain until Shad stopped breathing, and this is where the case becomes unbelievably disturbing. Instead of panicking, calling 911, trying to get Shad some help, Taylor stayed with his body. She sexually assaulted him after his death and then began cutting his body apart. She used knives from the house to dismember him and started putting his remains into whatever containers and whatever bags she could find around the basement. Then she left. In the early morning hours of February 23rd, Shad's mother came downstairs and she noticed that Taylor was gone, but she didn't see Shad, so she began looking around the basement, and that's when she noticed the bucket. There was a towel over it. She lifted the towel and discovered her son's severed head inside. I mean, I can't even imagine what this woman experienced in that moment. Oh, she immediately woke her boyfriend, completely hysterical, understandably, and police were called to the house. Now, when the officers arrived and went downstairs, they initially had to confirm that what she was telling them was actually real. I mean, what a story, right? But it was. And once the police began searching the basement, the scene became even worse. They found Shad's torso inside a storage container, additional remains inside bags and boxes, and knives believed to have been used during the dismemberment all over the place. Investigators then learned that not everything was inside the house. Police located Taylor and searched her minivan. More of Shad's remains were discovered. When detectives questioned Taylor about what happened, her behavior was incredibly unsettling. I mean, she admitted killing him, she admitted dismembering Shad, and she even told investigators they were going to have fun trying to locate all his organs. What does that mean? Investigators now had the person responsible. They had a confession, they had physical evidence, and one of the most gruesome crime scenes Green Bay police had ever encountered. But somehow, Taylor still wasn't finished. This is shocking, okay? In February 2023, she's sitting in court, awaiting trial, sitting next to her lawyer. Her attorney asked the judge for additional time. Taylor suddenly lunges at him and attacks him right there in the courtroom. A sheriff's deputy tackled her to the floor, and cameras captured the entire thing, and her attorney eventually withdrew from the case. Rightfully so. Taylor's murder trial finally began in July 2023, and jurors heard the details of what had happened to Shad. They saw evidence from the basement. They watched the police body camera footage from the night his remains were discovered. Taylor had pleaded not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. Rightly so. But the jury ultimately rejected that defense. She was found guilty of first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault. In September of 2023, Taylor Schabusiness was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And as horrifying as the details of this case are, the person I keep thinking about is Shad's mother. I mean, she went downstairs looking for her son, and became the person who discovered what had been done to him. That's an image no parent should ever have to carry. Shad Thyrion was only 24 years old when he was murdered, and his case became known because of the shocking details of the crime and Taylor's bizarre behavior afterward. But behind all of that was a young man whose family expected him to come upstairs again. He never did. Until next time, remember that every ordinary person has an extraordinary story. I'm Amber Joy, and I'll see you in the next story.